All right, let's get right into it. If you've ever tried to mash up WSL2, Kali, and VMware, you know what the dream is, right? This super flexible, all-powerful lab. But let's be real, the reality is usually a total nightmare. We're talking laggy terminals, VMs that feel like they're crawling through molasses. It's just slow. So today, we're going to take that frustrating mess and turn it into the fastest, most reliable tool in your arsenal.
You know, this line really hits home, doesn't it? We have all been there. It's 11 p.m., you're staring at a frozen cursor and just wondering, what went wrong? That feeling of having all this power at your fingertips and it just completely failing you, that's exactly what we're here to fix.
This is such a perfect way to put it. We think we're just running a few separate apps, being all polite with each other. But nope, under the hood, they are all elbowing each other out of the way, grabbing for the same CPU cycles, the same RAM, the same disk access. And if you don't lay down some house rules, you just get chaos. So first things first, let's diagnose the problem. We're going to dig into why this setup, which sounds so good on paper, so often just falls flat on its face.
Do any of these sound a little too familiar? The terminal that can't keep up with your typing, a VM that boots up like it's having an existential crisis, or my personal favorite, when a simple package update turns into a whole emotional ordeal. These aren't just random glitches, okay? They're symptoms of a much deeper conflict happening inside your machine.
And here's the interesting part. The fix isn't about chasing down 100 different tweaks you found on some forum. No, it's about understanding one single core conflict. And once you get that, you could change your entire approach. And here it is. This is the big idea. You are not just running apps. You are the manager of a tiny, very competitive ecosystem. See, WSL2 has its own way of managing memory. VMware has its own scheduler. And Windows is just trying to play referee and keep the peace. Once you start seeing it like that, the path to making it all work starts to become a whole lot clearer.
So this is the mental shift you've got to make. You have to stop thinking, it'll probably be fine, and start thinking, this thing needs clear rules. Don't waste your time chasing random tweaks. Instead, you need to focus on one thing, controlling the resource boundaries between these competing systems.
All right, so let's get to our first pillar. Before we can start setting any rules, we have to make sure the ground we're building on is actually solid, and that all starts with the virtualization stack itself.
The biggest mistake people make here is just enabling everything. They think more is better. It's not. It just creates more conflicts. Your job is to make sure these three things are clean and simple. First, virtualization is actually turned on in your BIOS. Second, you've only enabled the Windows features you absolutely need, nothing extra. And third, VMware is configured to play nice with all of it.
Okay, with the stable foundation, now we can get to the main event, the resource wars. This second pillar is all about you actively stepping in and drawing some lines in the sand for memory and for your disk.
I absolutely love this term, RAM cannibalism. It's exactly what happens when a memory-hungry WSL2 process decides to spin up right when your big, beefy VM needs resources. They don't share, they just start eating each other's lunch, and your poor Windows host system, it's the first one to starve.
Now look, you don't have to go out and buy new hardware, but let's be clear. 16 gigs of RAM is, well, it's workable, but it's fragile. 32 gigs is where this whole ecosystem really starts to feel smooth, like it was meant to be. The real win, though, isn't just having more RAM, it's having predictable RAM. And predictability? Well, that comes from setting rules. So don't think of this table as a perfect scientific benchmark. Think of it more like a guardrail. On a 16 gig system, you can see how you'd put a cap on WSL2 and then size your Kali VM just right, all to make sure that Windows always has enough room to breathe.
So after memory, this is the other silent killer, the disk. You think it's a CPU problem, but half the time, it's just a massive I/O traffic jam. Your WSL2 virtual disk and your VMware disk are both screaming for attention from the same physical drive at the same time. That's what causes that weird, random lag when you're doing an update or just copying files.
Okay, foundation is stable. Resources are managed. Our final pillar is all about discipline. It's about the smart habits that are going to keep your lab fast, not just today, but for the long haul, preventing that slow, creeping performance rot.
First off, you got to be strategic. Don't spin up a full graphical Kali desktop just to run a single script from the command line. I mean, come on, that's a huge waste of resources.
Use WSL2 for all your quick command line stuff, and save that full GUI Kali VM for when you really need the whole graphical environment, like for complex burp workflows.
This is another fantastic line. We all treat snapshots like a personal diary, right? Saving every tiny little change we make. But every single one of those snapshots adds another layer of complexity, another little performance penalty. And over time, that tax just adds up and up until your VM is unbearably slow.
The solution here is just simple discipline. Have one clean, golden baseline snapshot that you can always go back to. Then, only take new snapshots right before you're about to do something risky. And, this is the most important part, get in the habit of deleting them once you're done. You gotta prune that family tree.
Okay, so let's bring all three of those pillars together. What does a stable, achievable setup actually look like when you're in the thick of it? Well, it really just comes down to making the right choice for the right job.
So here's your decision card for WSL2. You should reach for it when speed and tight integration with Windows is what you need most. It's absolutely perfect for running quick scripts, for recon, for fast iteration where perfect isolation isn't your #1 priority.
And then here's the card for your full Kali VM. This is your go-to for isolation, for safety, and for repeatability. When you're dealing with risky targets or you need to practice complex attack chains that really rely on those snapshots, the full VM is the clear winner. Every time.
And this, right here, this distills everything down to the most important takeaway. If you're ever short on time, just think of this as your 15-minute pre-flight check. Stabilize the stack, set your memory boundaries for what you're doing right now, and clean up any storage friction. I'm telling you, this little ritual can save you an entire evening of frustration.
And that really is the whole point, isn't it? Speed isn't about bragging rights. It's about consistency. A predictable, reliable lab is a lab you'll actually use. And that's where the real learning, the real work, actually happens. So the next time you sit down to work, just ask yourself this question. Are you going to spend the night fighting your tools, or are you going to build a stable ecosystem that lets you focus on what actually matters? The choice is all yours.